Hello, and welcome to Fresh Blood, a podcast about killing it after 40, where we prove that new blood does not necessarily equal young blood. Here to discuss what it takes to have continued success through life, I'll be your host, Jolie Downs. With over 20 years of executive recruiting experience, I've learned how much we can grow and be inspired by other people's stories. I'm excited to share that with you here on Fresh Blood. Today we are speaking with Lisa Caprelli. Lisa is the creator of Skip a Step and Unicorn Jazz Stories. She has 17 books, a variety of songs, and a kids' TV show on Amazon TV. Lisa has taken her 25-year career in branding, public relations, radio, teaching, and writing and channeled it into helping kids of all ages smile, create, and believe. Lisa is currently on a Read Across the World tour through 2022, doing a show with songs, puppets, and music to help inspire literacy. I'm really excited to learn more about your journey. Lisa, thank you for joining us on Fresh Blood. Could you tell us a little bit more about your story and getting to where you are today?
Yes, thank you, Jolie, for having me, and thank you for all you wonderful listeners. What a breath of fresh air and energy that Jolie is in your podcast. Thank you for offering that. I got started, I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, and El Paso, Texas is the westernmost tip of Texas. It's almost New Mexico, and it borders on Mexico, Juarez, Mexico. So that's where I grew up. I raised in a large Hispanic family. I am Latina. And proud of it, proud of the culture, food,
Wonderful.
love, and passion that we are known for. It's all true. I grew up the middle child of 5 children. My mother was a single mom. She raised us. My grandmother and grandparents also raised us along with our amazing, joyous family. My grandmother had just a 3rd grade education. She was forced to drop out of school when she was at that young age because her mom died and she had to raise her family. That made an impression on what would happen as far as her encouraging and preaching and teaching the messages of get an education. School's important. Yeah. And she was right. So even though I grew up really shy, like my character Unicorn Jazz, I did make it a point in my early life and onward to be a lifelong learner and to enjoy what we did have instead of focusing on we couldn't have. And I say that because we grew up very poor. We didn't have a lot, but we go across to Juarez, Mexico, and those third world country talk about not having a lot. So we were raised to be grateful for what we had. I so appreciate my sisters, my brother, my mom's prayers, and the faith that would get us through the early, important, formidable years of our life. I'm grateful for teachers and people that do believe in you, the children. We were once them because I was one of those kids that if it wasn't for my teacher or someone like my grandmother encouraging me and believing in me, that would have changed the whole direction and course of my life. So I, as an adult now and changing courses because I did have almost 3 decades in business and marketing, and now loving and running with the purpose and mission behind Unicorn Jazz and connecting with children of all ages has been the most blessed, grateful work I could have had.
That's wonderful. And how I love the perspective you have on your childhood as well, because it is so important to have that gratitude taught to you at an early age is such a gift, because that is how you find joy in life, to look at the things that you have as opposed to lamenting the things that you don't have, because it really doesn't matter what stage you are in life. You can, depending on which way you're looking.
You should find happiness in simple things. Yes. And I'm showing up to you. I know your podcast is audio and some of it hopefully could be video. I love sharing that as well. So my Being Happy book with Unicorn Jazz and Friends, it's large art pieces of simple things that can make you happy. And when I share this with kids, and adults love it too, they get excited about what makes them happy. Essentially, we discover that happiness is free. And some of the pictures in this book created by my cousin, David Villalobos, his happiness is to create art, and that's what he gets to do today as well. Wonderful. So there's a picture here of Unicorn Jazz's mom and her baking in the kitchen. And often I'll hold up this page. It says, being happy is baking sweets with mom. And I often say, who here would like it if someone cooked for them or baked for them? Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody. Holding the door open for someone. That brings someone happiness. You like to make s'mores at your campsite, as I show with this picture, that's happiness. Who here doesn't like to laugh? Everyone likes to laugh. And these 2 pages are important because this was like my childhood. It was my grandmother's backyard, my cousins and sisters and I playing silly make-believe games and being happy is playing make-believe. Many people do like to dance or sing. That makes us happy. So
Yes.
I just remember all those things, and fast forward to adult, there's many. My book of happiness could be huge, and it is important, like you said, to be grateful and share gratitude with what is beautiful around your life.
Yes. Yes. And so you were taught that, and now you're helping teach that to another generation of kids. That's wonderful.
Especially since the pandemic. We
Oh,
need that.
yes, yes. We all anything good and positive that we can add to this world is needed at this point in time. I completely agree. And now tell us a little bit about your path to getting here, because I know you had a career in branding and marketing, PR. So what brought you to this point?
Yeah, well, a lot of it was learning along the way, asking questions of the CEOs and the amazing people that I got to work with in my career. If asking the questions of really, are you happy? You created this big business, it started, and sometimes I helped them build a business with my marketing and branding. And I often say, you help someone build a dream and it becomes successful, you're going to be good friends with them. So I developed over the course of my career a lot of amazing, good friends, good connections, getting to know people, their families. I feel like I'm family with many people. And being vulnerable and real and authentic is how we nurture and build connections and relationships. I created this book called Skip a Step before Unicorn Jazz, and I went on a 3-year journey interviewing 13 different entrepreneurs and leaders about what makes for happiness and meaning. What would you tell your 7-year-old self again?
Yes.
If you could go back in time to skip steps, what would you tell your 21-year-old self? And many of the questions, it wasn't about like, how do you make a lot of money? That was never a question. It was, what is the meaning of life for you? And so that we can all learn. And I saw common denominators, like the meaning of life was to create, says Michael Gerber at the end of his interview, business tycoon author, Joe Garner, 7-time New York bestselling author, many great things he said. And he didn't accept being told no, because as a child, his parents didn't tell him no, they encouraged him. And that would have set off many of his path and career path and success. So many stories. Everyone had struggle, by the way. There was challenges, triumphs. There was always the rise and fall in their story. And they got up and would rise again. And it's those kinds of stories that help us persevere. At the end of Skip a Step, I just felt, I'm ready now. What is the thing I want to do? How can I pay it forward in life with all this collective wisdom? I'd already worked with 150 CEOs in by this time. And I saw what made for happiness, not mistakes, not paying it forward, helping others, those that had a serving heart, and how their businesses flourished from that. So in what sense I took the best of, and I knew I was a writer, and writing was in everything I did. Writing's in a marketing message. It's also a media message. It's in a video piece. So I already had created books. I have created 17 to date and counting. And I just said, what can make a difference? What is something I want to do that is not going to feel like work? Who can I help that's going to have a lasting impact? And for me, it was children. It was a way for me to revisit my childhood and skip steps for the people and the children that I get to connect with in those messages. And boy, didn't know that was going to happen. Because through the art of storytelling and imagination and characters and made up unicorns that, we know aren't real, and that you can share a positive message, and to have a school open up to you and give you that platform, not just one classroom, but talk about 300, 1,000 kids in one day, and to speak to them, to speak to their hearts and share with them that's a moment that's going to be impressionable, as many as you can. That everything changed for me, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's beautiful. What do you feel has been the most impactful message that you've been given that you share?
There's so many. The most impactful comes to mind is the power of creating. And I have children. As you can tell, everyone says I'm a passionate speaker, and yeah, I do what I love, and I'm grateful for it. I'll get questions like, is it hard to create or be imaginative? And my reply back is it hard to dream? No, it's not. The message is going to be to do the thing that you love to do, and do it with your whole heart. That's my show is called The Thing I Do, based on my book and song. The thing I do is about the thing you do. What are the things you love to do? It doesn't mean it has to be your career. It could be hobbies, it could be adventures, it could be interests, it could be service, teamwork. And what I have found is those people that have balance in their lives and do the things they love are more happy, or are more happier, and that pours over into every other aspect in your life.
Mm-hmm.
At the last chapter of Skip a Step, I came up with a philosophy theory I called the 5 hats.
The 5 hats?
The 5 hats. And
Okay.
I'm actually writing about this in a Forbes article. So you're first on your show.
I'm curious.
5 areas of life and that create balance and meaning when you are aware of them, and they change for you daily, weekly. Only you know what your 5 hats are. Family, friendship, career, connection, and adventure. And I say this because I would see people pouring all their life into one hat, their career hat. And because I did work specifically a lot with entrepreneurs, as I am one, how maybe your other hats might suffer because you're putting all your time and energy in that. And then where were you putting your time in your family, thinking, oh, they'll be there later. And again, think of the pandemic, and what isolation taught us is, where were your hats working for you? Yes. In that regard. And there's no wrong. If you realize this, you can go back and do the work to connect with friends, build that friendship hat, build a balanced life. Like for me, I have a rule where I'm off Sundays. Hard to do, but I am off. I give that time to my family, is my family day. And then my friendships, and I make it a point to connect and do phone calls, Zooms, and stay connected and build those friendships. And today we can have friendships on social media where people rely on their messages, like what you do with a podcast. Like that's, people can feel your friendship connecting to them. And connection, we're all wired for human connection.
It's vital.
And connection can be best friends. It could be your partner, significant other. It could be your faith. And so I looked at life from different angles in seeing and hearing the stories and emotions and feelings of what either made people happy or not. And I find that when you create balance in this, and you are aware of your partner's balance in their adventure hat, again, I'll read the 5 again: family, friendship, career, connection, adventure. And I am not here to say there's one right or wrong. It's just to explore what is true for you, what is true for your partner, your children, your employees. And when you look at life and understanding this, you're going to have balance. And it makes me happy because I'm like, for myself, I'm able to check off boxes of time, because time is promised to no one. And we're all busy. Whenever someone says, what have you, how have you been? And it seems to be a common place to say, I'm busy. Who's not busy? But what are you busy giving your time to?
Yes. What are you busy? Yes. I love this. And it's so true how finding that balance is key to having a happy, thriving life. And it is proven in story after story. It doesn't really matter where someone is. They could have a wonderful job and be making a ton of money. But if one of those hats is seriously deficient, it's felt. Something is going haywire. And even if they can't pinpoint it, life is making it haywire for them until it is.
I saw it happen. I saw it time and time again. And I saw it with the CEO that was making fortunes, but they couldn't get into that connection hat. I would see their relationships suffer with their partner or family. And then you stop and think, well, that's the truth. It doesn't mean they go advertise it, but is that what you would really want someone to have? All this fame and fortune, if you want to call it that, but then other areas of your life suffer, and beyond that? What happens if, as we know, there's losses in life? What happens when you lose something in any of these hats? Because we know that's going to happen. Loss is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. Happiness is a choice. Where is the people in all these different areas that are going to help you? Because we're designed to help others. And so for me, I find like I have an incredible network of people in all these hats. Like it's a purpose, because I figured out, okay, if we're going to have loss in life, as even the pandemic has taught us, and maybe with your business or your career, we've seen companies go out of business, start over, thrive, change, shift, then you can be grateful for, I have a great family, I have great friends, that kind of thing, right?
Yes, the other hats. Thank God for those other hats.
Right?
Yes.
And that's so, to me, I wish someone taught me this at a younger age.
It is important. You're right. And it is not something that is talked about or taught to us at a younger age. This is something I had to learn later on in life. So it is very important to be talked about with children. So thank you for that. That is, I didn't even think about that this is something that so many of us learn the hard way.
Right.
Let's do it the easy way, shall we, at a young age? That's much better. So tell me this, what do you feel has been one or two of your greater successes in life, and what did you learn from it?
Being able to be a public speaker, being able to be on a show like this, be zero nervous, be happy, excited.
Hmm. Isn't that
I
a big
learned
deal? Now, wait, did you used to be nervous?
always,
Yes. Okay. So how did you get over
100%.
it?
It's a lot of mind work. It's telling
Right.
myself quotes I just put out the other day by Eleanor Roosevelt. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. You
Yes.
must do that thing you cannot do. Like I have all these mantras of people I started learning from in self development in my 20s, learning from people like Wayne Dyer, learning
Hmm.
from people like Tony Robbins. There's so many people to learn from
Yes.
and quotes and people. And I know you love interviewing people and you learn from the best of them. And so for me, it was also telling myself another saying, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Who else and better to fulfill
Mm.
the spokesperson role for Unicorn Jazz and the work I do? Imagine me having a representative of what I'm creating. That would be really hard.
Hmm. Ooh, that's good. I like that. Now that's interesting. What about your greater challenges? I mean, what's the biggest challenge you've had to deal with, and how'd you overcome? What'd you learn?
I've had many. I would say not getting my way. I'm not good at that.
Always a challenge.
In any hat area, I could describe it. And then what are you going to do about it? Focus on what you can do and the yeses you can't get. No, I don't like being told no. And I wrote that in my book, Color Your Message, another book I did when I did marketing for companies and teaching them about the importance of marketing. And I have had many challenges. I would say one that I speak about often is when I moved from Texas to California when I was almost 30 years old. I came here with nothing but $100 type
Wow,
story.
it's a big change. That's a big change too.
People told me, no, you couldn't, you're not going to make it, Lisa. I said, I don't like being told no. Watch me. And I always thought if I don't, I can always go back. That's easy. My family will take me back in. I have a big one and they love me.
It's
And
a
I'll just
blessing. Hmm.
apologize. When in doubt, be humble, which you should always be humble and kind.
Yes.
And so I've lived here ever since. I love Southern California. I do love the vibe, the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm so grateful today. I live 5 blocks from the beach in Huntington
Mm.
Beach. I never take it for granted. And I could live really anywhere in the world. I'm grateful where God sends me. And it's still here in this beautiful area. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit, I would say, that has changed me, that I was able to find and develop and grow here. The challenge would be in understanding other people's perspective. And I
Mm.
feel like that's why God's blessed me to have a quest and zest for studying human behavior. My degree is in social psychology. And although I never became a therapist, I always wished I had, and we can't be all things to all people.
Yes.
I feel that understanding other people and in all your relationships is important. And we're always challenged. Till we die, we're challenged. There's no like manual to being the perfect parent, to being the perfect partner. And we really don't really want to ever hurt people. Stop and think about it. Do people really intend to hurt people? No.
No.
And mostly not. And so for me, knowing that how people react, all behavior is communication. So for me, it's understanding where people come from to be able to have harmony and joy and love.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. How do you help? What helps you understand where people come from? Get to that, because
Oh,
connecting
talking
with
about their
people.
story. I find, I want to say, and you probably get this too, being an interviewer and me being a writer. Like, I feel like people always tell me their story. And I like digging. Of course, I ask questions. To be an interviewer, you got to ask questions.
Hmm.
And to get someone's real, genuine, and authentic and vulnerable story and their voice in that, you got to ask good questions.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can ask good questions, and that's the writer's brain in me, and that's your quest for understanding yourself.
Do you have favorite questions?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Can you share with us a couple for someone
Yeah.
who maybe can't think of the right questions to make those connections? Give them a couple for the pocket.
I will say, and I learned this from Skip a Step, and again, maybe this is another
Oh,
reason I was mentored with
nice.
children. I would always want to get them in their little girl or little boy self, that
Mm.
innocence, versus
Hmm.
this is what I should tell you, the business side of me.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to get them to that vulnerable age. And you see this in working with children, which is why I love working with children, because with children, you don't have to say, act like a child. They are a child. It's bringing that down, that they're giving them, they have permission to share with no judgment, right?
Hmm.
Knowing that it could be edited. I never would publish or talk about someone's story that I didn't have permission to. And so that's what you have with a therapist, that trust.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so questions would be like, what would you tell your 7-year-old self, like I said early on? And even more, getting them into diving into meaning. One of the last questions I would ask is, one day, I would record my interviews before I published the book, Skip a Step. I would say, one day we're going to pass. Time is promised to no one. We are going to pass on this earth. And if they had children or somebody special, I'd be like, look into the camera and what is something you want to be known for? What do you want people to know you for? What is life about, has been for you? And knowing that they knew that moment of what their message was important, I sometimes bring them to tears with the message, or bring them to something that would still continue the interview on. It wasn't really the last question. It just opened up the floodgates for an interview that not many of them had. And I like that.
I agree. That's where you get the best messages, really. What are you going to leave for your kids? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to think about you when you leave this earth?
Yeah. What was your life? If you've been around 50 years, 80 years, 100 years, what sum up your life? What was it? What did you do? What did you do when no one was looking? What did you do to give back to humanity?
And what do you want to be known for, Lisa?
For the stories that I always inspired people to find their happiness. And I feel that because growing up poor, we could have been, woe is me. We could have said that was so traumatic. And I refuse to let that be my story. We laugh at our poor stories and the things we had with that. We laugh at how we had to wash our socks in the shower and use them the next day, otherwise we'd have smelly socks. That's funny. Or just, we have so many stories, and we're grateful that was the childhood and not now. But it's still, it's always finding the happiness. And the pandemic, of course, has taught us that, because it affected the world in many ways, and we all knew somebody that had suffering or loss if it wasn't you during the pandemic. And so I just believe that if we have so much time, hours, days, years on this, that we know we're going to have hard times. We know we're going to have suffering. We know we're going to have great times. We're going to celebrate those wins and celebrate those joys of others. But every day is a new day to start over. Every day is a new day to, what is my emotion going to be from whatever happened to me? And how am I going to transcend that to those around me? And so for me, because I created Happiness News at the beginning of the pandemic to make people smile, and I didn't want to focus on the doom and gloom of how it started off. And I'm holding up a sock puppet, and this was come up and say, Happiness News, today at Happiness News. And see, like, you just get so silly and stupid. And I had my family and friends doing these little puppet shows that were going to be used for my show, The Thing I Do. And at first they're like, we don't know what she's doing, but we think that she knows what she's doing.
I love it. Happiness News is what we all need. We are too inundated with terrible news that really does affect everything else, I think.
Yeah. What was something during the pandemic for you that created happiness for you?
For me, I threw myself into learning. I absolutely was like, what can I learn? How can I expand? How can I grow? What can I do? And then I did that for a few months, and I was like, how can I help other people? What could I do to bring some kind of ease or help to at least one person out there in some way? So that's
beautiful.
And then
I often say, thanks for sharing. And that's the opposite of selfish. I always say the opposite of selfish is to help others. We are designed to give our lives away. Learn that. I've learned that when you help and give back to others, you're always helping yourself automatically. And can that not bring you happiness? And my next book is called Help and Give Back, coming out the end of December 2021.
Wonderful.
And Unicorn Jazz pictures of ways we can all help and give back to society.
That's wonderful. It's one of the key aspects to success in life. It's one of those common denominators in the stories of success. It seems whenever someone finally turns their view from how can I help myself to how can I help others, it's when things start to happen. And that is another very important lesson that we all need much earlier in life as well. So that's great. Now, I'm curious, what do you believe is key to having continued success throughout life? Because like you said, it's cyclical. We're up and down. We're up and down.
Yeah, I don't like the word success, even though it's a word we want to attain, because success could be defined different. Success for someone could be defined like, I want to make a lot of money. That means I'm successful. I want to have so many cars. I want to go to this many trips. I want to have material possessions, more clothes, more shoes, more
Absolutely.
purses, more hats, more.
What's your definition? That's what I want to know. Let's go there.
Having balance in your 5 hats.
Having balance in your 5 hats.
And that's successful. And having that with those close around you, make that they're achieving their 5 hats, because it should be important to all the people in their life. What's important to you, not just what's important to me. And we all have a selfish nature. I for sure have. And I always make it a point to be genuinely interested in other people and supporting their 5 hats.
Yes. No, that's great. And we've talked about the up and downs. How do you push through your worst times?
It's persevering and self-help. That thanks for great literature and people who create work. It's telling yourself, I must do the thing I cannot do. Like I said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And yeah, being self-employed is hard. There's no one that knocks on your door saying, this is your list today, even though it's always tremendous. Yep. It's surrounding yourself with like-minded people. It's being on great shows like yours. And connecting and seeing that there's aha moments, and we need that. And I'm so grateful for shows like yours and the interviews that people are genuinely interested in the stories. I always thought, like, why does someone want my story? It's just another story. It's not a big deal. And who really doesn't like to share their story? And everyone has a story. Yes. Everybody has a beautiful story.
They do. And there's something to learn from everything. And already, Lisa, there's so much to learn from your story. We've barely even scratched the surface of your story.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to one day turn my book series into an animation series, get things licensed. We're working toward that direction. So it's always aiming for something. And again, knowing that, still balancing, because I'll tell you, there's times at night my illustrator will send me pictures of the next book, and the old me would want to stop and work on it at 10 p.m. and then push him. And of course, he's doing what he loves, and we balance this thing. And I have to say, I'm off. It'll be there at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, have you ever felt stuck?
Yes. Yeah. I feel I felt stuck more when I was younger than now. I think as an adult, you have the ability to use your words, create things, you drive, you can get places. There's always a way to create, and there's always a way to entrepreneur. Feeling stuck for me would be being stuck in, now that we shared what the hats are, is being stuck and not growing in an area of your life. That would be stuck. Yeah. In not knowing how to change that, or being miserable in one of them. That would be for me. Yeah. So it's overcoming that and the work it's going to take and moving on. And because I'm so grateful that giving back is such a huge component of my work and the mission we do. It's hard to be stuck when life is moving for you. If I can wake up and say, I have an author visit coming up in Texas, and they found me on my website, that's going to make me unstuck, because that's creating the things I like to do. And one of the things I often say is, do something your future self will thank you for. The fact that you did this podcast during the pandemic and 10 interviews later, that's something your future self today thank you for doing in the beginning, even though it was probably hard. You have to learn how the best equipment. I know you. And so for me, like I'm holding up a baby board book. I had to create the pages with my illustrator. We had to, work with China to create this little puppet. And on, we started this early this year. I created a song with it. And I just look at it as everything is to finish a project, to create a company, to create a service, mission, or brand. It starts with an idea, and then there's series of steps, whether it's A through F, A through Z, you will get there and you will complete them. So for me, fulfillment and a success in a project is when this is actually on the shelves and people can buy it on Amazon. And right now I'm just showing the only one in the world.
That's so amazing. I love it.
It's not complete, but imagine the day that they arrive and I get thousands of these. Like, so exciting. That's a joyous day, right?
Yes, it is. And like you said, it can all be broken down into steps. Everything can be broken down into steps.
Everything. You have to look at life like that. Yeah.
Yes. Are there any other habits that you've developed that help you bring your own success?
Yeah, I take advantage of our Google Calendar, and I calendar everything. I calendar my gym time. My son knows he has to calendar the times we go to school, and it respects each other's time. Time management is important, because remember, all of us say we're all busy, although who's busier is more important than yours or mine. Like, we all get the same 24 hours in a day, right?
Yes.
And we all got to sleep and so forth. So it's time management. I feel I do that well, and not completely obsessed about that. I have windows where it's like, free time, what do I do? And that's a good thing to have. I do write, think fast, and it's only because I was a court reporter early on in the career that I didn't end up doing, obviously. So I was able to read, write, and think at like upwards of 250 words a minute. That's definitely helped me in all my areas of life.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And of all the lessons that you've learned throughout life, what do you feel has brought you the most benefit?
Writing,
Writing.
the voice of writing by far. Who knew? I for sure. I mean, writing is for everything. It's before a movie's made. Great writing had to have a conversation. You have to form thoughts and words in your head. You sent me over a list of questions you may ask, and of course, I'm reading them, and my writing brain goes, "Oh, I said that before. I could draw from here and there."
Mm-hmm.
Practice. I'm able to create books, whether they're chapter books or now picture books, which I love doing picture books. And I have to be able to tell my illustrator, Davey, I have to communicate with words, with writing, how I want something to be, or if many of these pages will be redone before the public, the reader in their hands gets what it is. And my writing brain can help me look at things in a 360 degrees perspective way.
Isn't that interesting that it really does open your mind in different ways through writing? And I find it interesting because I never enjoyed writing. It was something that I really fought younger in life. I don't know what it was. There was a little bit of a block for me, if you will. I didn't want to write. I didn't want to write.
Yeah.
And the advice is always, you should write. And for years and years, and you should journal, you should do all these things. And I fought it. And finally, it was actually at a point when I was feeling stuck in my life. And I finally took that pen to paper and I started writing. And it was actually very interesting to see what came from that, even with small things or remembering. I started to write speeches and about different experiences in my life, and then just bringing those experiences up and writing down what you remember. And all I know is so much richness has come from writing things down. And then when it comes to goals, I find when you write down your goals, there's like this magic that happens.
There's a vision. Yeah. It's a kinesthetic thing. And sometimes when I would have meetings with people, I'm going to say having to do with business, I bring out my writing and actually would write things down. And I may never look at them again, but there's a memory process to actually doing that. And it is so important. And it isn't for everyone. And I'm not saying it's supposed to be, but that was the answer I wanted to give you. But there's writing in a tweet. Think about it. 140 characters you have to carefully craft. And that's an art. I feel like it's something magical. There's writing in music. I love music. I love paying attention to lyrics. And one thing about music is we can hear it over and over in our lifetime to the tune of hundreds of thousands of times, maybe, of a song by the time you live to whatever age you live to. Do we get tired of those songs? No.
They become more nostalgic. Yeah. Now, I'm curious, is there any other book, talk, or video that you've watched, movie you've watched that had a really big impact on your life that you think it could benefit others?
Yeah, I will say I love so many movies. So I'm going to give a book. A college professor of mine told me when I was in my 20s that I should read this book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And it's a true story. He was a Holocaust survivor. And Man's Search for Meaning is the title. So just think about that, Man's Search for Meaning. And I remember I didn't read it in my 20s, but I still always remember how he said, you should read this book, Lisa. So in my 30s, I picked it up in Barnes and Nobles. Wish I read it in my 20s. Couldn't put it down. Highlighting, crying. And I feel like books that have a lot to do with struggle. And I tend to look at the positive of things like that. And to me, emotions and feelings are what push people to change. And have you read that book, by the way?
No, you know what? It's so interesting. Someone else told me that I should read it.
It sold millions of copies.
And I actually bought it for my brother and my cousin for Christmas. And I told them, because they're not big readers, but I felt like they could benefit from it. And so I gave them the book and I said, look, as soon as you start reading this book, call me, because I bought one for myself, and I'm not going to start it until you start it. And when you finish it, I'm going to give you $100. So that's all you got to do is read the book and I'll give you $100. And neither one of them called me. So I never read the book. I'm going to go, I have it still.
I will meet with you again. Yeah. And we could, and seriously, we could have a book club. I would love that. To all my sisters, I don't know that they read it. It's one of those things like, you're like, why would you not do this? Whatever reason. I love so many things from that story that I will share with you without it. It's just, here was a man that was a Holocaust survivor. And we've seen movies like Schindler's List, and many of us have seen Holocaust movies, survivors or those that didn't. And again, the incredible pain, the triumph, the appreciation for if you did live another day, and the aftermath of all that. And to hear from this man who he would say things like, if you just felt like you were smarter or one more day, you just, even your shoulders had confidence, he would see the psychology that you lived another day. If people felt self-defeated, those are the ones that were most likely not to live another day. He would talk about come Christmas time or holiday time, when typically you would be around your family, and there was no, you were in a prison. You were with no time, no date. I'll also, one more thing to keep this, I could talk about Man Search for Meaning for a long time. He talks about, so then there are decades, he talks about, fast forward in the story, the day with it was over. They all could, whoever was free could move on. And they would think about the times that when we have freedom, we're going to have a party, champagne, we're going to hug our loved ones. That's what they lived for, were those moments of when we get out of here, what we're going to do. And the ones that did survive went back to their families, or where there was once a house there. They didn't find their siblings, their brothers, their children. I remember just crying. So he goes, you thought that it couldn't be worse, and it got worse. So and then it just goes to show you the power of our human spirit, and that, again, what you are still alive at that moment. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? And it brings me back into the 5 hats. You got to have this balance in your life.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I'm definitely going to read that book. Yeah. Now, before we go, as far as for anyone wanting to find you, find your books, we'll definitely have links on the show notes. But if you want to share where to go for your website or if anything, feel free.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. Anyone listening can go to my websites, lisacaprelli.com, Capreli. I'd love for everyone to go to Unicorn Jazz, whether you have kids or not, because you can learn so much happiness for any age and share with other kids, educators, grandkids. Unicornjazz.com. We put a lot of love and meaning into our social media messages. I'm very reachable on any of those mediums. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. And before we go, for my last question, Lisa, what are you sure of in life?
I'm sure of that change is inevitable.
It is. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. I've loved our talk. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
I loved Lisa's story. I loved learning about her family and how she was raised. What a lucky childhood to have grown up being taught such a positive perspective. That is a gift that carries you through a lifetime. As Lisa shared, she did not grow up well off in terms of money, but she grew up with love, direction, strong values, including a focus on education, and was taught appreciation and gratitude early in life. She learned from a young age that you appreciate what you have as opposed to focusing on what you don't have. She grew up creating her own book of happiness, finding gratitude for what was beautiful in her life. This is absolutely key to living a successful, satisfied, and fulfilled life. I want you to think about this. Are you living a successful life if you are never fully satisfied? Can someone truly be successful if they never feel that internal feeling of fulfillment? Ken Honda, he's the author of Happy Money and Japan's money guru. He has studied the lives of millionaires and billionaires around the world, and he has found that so many of these people did not feel internal satisfaction. He would interview the extremely rich, but when asked about how they felt, they would say they did not feel rich. For example, one person said, well, I only have $10 million. It's not $30 million, so I don't feel rich. So Ken would go and interview someone at $30 million, and they would say, well, I don't feel rich because I don't have a personal plane. So then he would talk to someone with a personal plane and they would say, I don't feel rich. I only have a 4-seater plane. So the next person he would talk to would have a 10-seater plane and that person would say, I don't feel rich. I don't even have my own personal hangar. Can you see how this can just keep going and going? Comparing yourself to others, it is a fool's game and it will steal your joy. The only person to compare yourself to is the person that you were yesterday. Turn your head and focus your eyes on those things that are good in your life right now. Focus your eyes on those things that are right now. I start every day with a gratitude practice. It's tied into my morning 6-phase meditation, which I do plan on sharing with this community soon. Nothing starts a day feeling better. And I highly suggest adding a gratitude practice into your daily existence. Try a 3-part gratitude process. First, bring in that feeling of gratitude for your life. Think of 3 things you can feel grateful for, a kind action or a kind word that someone said to you, or perhaps a gift you received, or a place in nature you came by, or an animal that brings you comfort, or a situation that happened in life that you're grateful for, something in the past week, month that you can feel grateful for. I want you to feel all of those positive emotions from that circumstance. Then think about your work and your career. Think of 3 things you can be grateful for. It could be something to do with a coworker or a project or some occurrence in your career. Give thanks and feel the emotions of appreciation for your work. Then feel gratitude for yourself. Think about 3 aspects of your being related to your body, your mind, your soul that you are grateful for. It can be a quality or a character trait. Just give thanks and gratitude for 3 aspects of yourself. And I want you to feel that joy, all of those positive emotions as you bring back to mind each unique aspect for yourself. This practice, it will bring an immense feeling of contentment each and every day. Lisa went on to have a successful 3 decades in business and marketing before developing her mission and creation of Unicorn Jazz, connecting with kids of all ages. Through her career, she has worked with amazing people, building deep relationships through authenticity and nurturing. Through these relationships, she has learned from leaders about what makes for happy and meaningful lives. She's found the common denominators, and then she has followed them herself. Lisa learned that everyone struggles. There are always challenges in life, and there are always triumphs. You will always rise and fall, and one of the major keys to success is perseverance. You need to be in touch with the meaning of your goal, why it's important to you in order to keep pushing through the hard times and continue to persevere. So Lisa started to ask herself the right questions. What is it she really wants to do? What could she do that would not feel like work? How can she give back and pay it forward? What is something that she wants to do that will also make a positive difference and have a lasting impact on others? For her, this was sharing positive messages through the art of storytelling. She created a world that appeals to children, allowing her to share the messages that lift us up in life. And Lisa could not be happier. The lesson for us here is to do the things that you love to do and do it with your whole heart. If you cannot do the things that you love to do for work, then do it as a hobby. Do it as an adventure. Do it as a service to others. The people who do this are happier in life, and it pours over into all other aspects of your life, including your career. You can literally give your career a boost by making yourself happier. So start asking yourself these questions. What is it that you really want to do? What could you do that would not even feel like work? How can you give back and pay it forward? What is something that you want to do that will also make a positive difference and have a lasting impact on others? Figure out the answers to those questions and do that. Start there. I absolutely loved Lisa's 5-hat analogy that she uses to create balance in her life. Your 5 hats are family, friendship, career, connection, and adventure. How are your 5 hats doing in your own life? What kind of attention are you giving to each of your hats? Is one hat getting more attention than all of the others? As Lisa shared, so many people do pour all of their focus into one hat, and then their other hats suffer. This is true for all types of people, from the workaholic who neglects their family hat, or the overly devoted parent who neglects their own personal career or their personal connection and adventure, or the adventure lover who neglects the family and the connection. To find that balance is to find satisfaction and contentment. If you are neglecting one or more of your 5 hats, something is off in your universe, regardless if you realize it. For so many of us, the pandemic showed us where we were lacking, where we were not giving that focus. Loss is inevitable in life, and change is the only constant. So when we suffer a loss from one of these hats, if the other hats are strong, we will be able to weather the difficulties of loss with so much more grace. You'll have the gratitude for the functioning hats to help buoy you through the tough times. Having balance is an absolute must to a happy, thriving, successful life. So I ask you, are your hats working for you? Is there an area of life that needs more attention? As Lisa said, we are all busy, but what are you busy giving your time to? It's great to spend time and reflect, and then make those adjustments from time to time. Let's all try to keep that balance between our important hats: our family, our friendships, our career, our overall connection, and our adventure. Lisa also shared excellent life advice to help anyone thrive. She shared how scared and petrified she was of public speaking, but how she continued to push herself forward, and now it is as natural as can be, proving once again that anything can be learned. You must do that thing you think you cannot do. I love this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. It's so insightful. Right there in the quote, it says it, you must do that thing you think you cannot do. Because that is the key right there. It is your thoughts. It is what you think. It always begins with your thoughts. You thinking you cannot do something is a fear-based thought process. It impacts almost all human beings. The only thing separating you from the people who are flourishing at that thing that you think you cannot do is that they did it anyway. Even though their thoughts threw those arrows of doubt, they ignored them and continued to move forward anyway. Understanding this can make all the difference in transforming your life. What is it that you think you cannot do? What would happen if you learned how to do it anyway? What would your life look like? Now, how about we all make a promise together right now? Let's promise that whatever that thing is that you think you cannot do, you will get out of your own way and give it a try. And I will promise to do the same. I already know exactly what my thing is that I've been thinking I cannot do, and I'm throwing that thought process away. And you know what? I'm going to share with you in the future on another podcast what happened when I finally did get out of my way. Let's do it together, shall we? I absolutely loved Lisa's answer about what she does when she feels stuck in life. She said, she creates. Yes. Lisa shared that when she's feeling stuck, it's because she is either miserable or not growing in one of her areas of life, in one of her hats. So when this happens, she identifies the area in pain, and then she starts doing the work needed to fill that hat back up. As she said, it's hard to stay stuck when you are making proactive decisions and life begins to move with you. When you are doing the things that you want to do, everything begins to flow smoothly again. Lisa gave the best advice here. She said, do something your future self will thank you for. Yes. What is one thing you can do today that your future self will thank you for? Do that today, and then ask yourself this question tomorrow and every day moving forward. For today, you are alive, and there really is nothing more important than that single fact. You are still alive in this moment. So, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Lisa is spending her time inspiring people to find their happiness. Her message is clear. Every day is a new day to start over. We are designed to give back to the world we live in. And when we give back to others, we are really, in fact, helping ourselves. And that is my final wish for us all. That each and every one of you will find your own personal path to happiness. And that if things go wrong, you will remember that every day is a new day to start over. Choosing to live that day focused on gratitude, building your book of happiness, and giving back to others. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on Fresh Blood. Please subscribe and follow us on all streaming services, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Player FM. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Fresh Blood Podcast. I would love your help in spreading these stories and important messages. Please give us a like and share with a friend. Your help is greatly appreciated. I hope you make today a most fulfilling day.